Kimi K3 is a mixture of experts model containing 2.8 trillion total parameters. It uses a highly sparse routing mechanism with 896 total experts, but only 16 active at any given time per token. The model is natively multimodal and features a 1 million token context window. Moonshot claims it achieves roughly 2.5 times the scaling efficiency of its predecessor through two specific architectural changes: a hybrid linear attention scheme called Kimi Delta Attention and attention residuals, which alter how information moves between layers. It is open weight, not open source, meaning the training data remains private, but the weights themselves are released under Moonshot's license. The ability to eventually run a 2.8 trillion parameter model locally is the entire reason this release is commanding attention. We begin the data ledger with the major composite benchmarks. Across these tests, every independent source agrees on the ranking, and K3 sits behind Claude Fable 5. On the Artificial Analysis Intelligence Index, using the best couplet setting, Claude Fable 5 ranks first at approximately 60. GPT-5.6 Sol is second at approximately 59. Kimi K3 is third at approximately 57, just a hair ahead of Claude Opus 4.8 at approximately 56. On GDPval-AA v2, measuring real-world tasks, we see a significant disagreement in reporting. In Set A from VentureBeat, Claude Fable 5 reaches a max score of 1,815, while Kimi K3 scores 1,687. In Set B, reported by Decoder, Claude Fable 5 scores 1,760, and Kimi K3 scores 1,668. The exact scores disagree, but the ranking is identical. K3 is in third place, below Fable 5. On FrontierSWE, a highly rigorous software engineering benchmark, the result is unambiguous. Claude Fable 5 scores 86.6, Kimi K3 scores 81.2. Fable 5 wins by more than 5 points. On overall general intelligence, real-world task breadth, and the hardest software engineering benchmarks, Anthropic's flagship model clearly remains ahead. Now we look at the specific domains where Kimi K3 actually wins. These victories are narrow, but they are real. In the Frontend Code Arena, reliant on blind developer voting, Kimi K3 took first place outright with 1,679, ahead of Fable 5. On the AA-Briefcase benchmark for agentic work, K3's reported scores vary slightly between 1,527 and 1,548. Taking any consistent set of those numbers, K3 remains in second place. It trails Fable 5, which peaks at 1,583 or 1,587 depending on the source, but it successfully beats GPT-5.6 Sol. K3 also logs specific victories in terminal execution on Terminal Bench 2.1 and high-difficulty web search on BrowseComp, where it scored 91.2. The data shows a clear pattern. Kimi K3's primary strength lies in specialized, long-horizon, single-agent workflows, largely enabled by its massive context window. High scores on specific benchmarks do not guarantee operational reliability. When moving from controlled tests to deployment, three major caveats emerge with K3. First, on factual probes, K3 hits a 51% hallucination rate. This illustrates the severe penalty for confident wrong answers, a domain where K3 struggles. Second, despite its architecture, K3 runs slower than the median model in practice. Third, it arrives under an unresolved cloud regarding its training data, fueled by instances where Kimi K3 explicitly identifies itself as Anthropic's Claude in conversations. A high peak capability is compromised if the model's outputs cannot be implicitly trusted in a production environment. Where Kimi K3 does secure an indisputable victory is the economics of its API. Moonshot has priced the API at $3 per million input tokens and $15 per million output tokens, with cached inputs dropping to just 30 cents per million. Furthermore, the scheduled open weights release offers a massive strategic advantage. Organizations with strict compliance policies can deploy K3 on-premise, entirely bypassing the mandatory 30-day data retention limits required by commercial APIs like Claude Fable 5. For enterprise teams, the ability to host a near-frontier model locally at a fraction of the operating cost is often a more practical advantage than a slight edge in general intelligence. So, does Kimi K3 actually beat Claude Fable 5? On one blind benchmark, Frontend Code, it wins outright. On agentic work, it competes at the very top and beats GPT-5.6 Sol. On cost per task, it is vastly more efficient. But on general intelligence, on real-world task breadth, and on the hardest software engineering benchmarks, Claude Fable 5 retains its lead. Overall, Claude Fable 5 is still ahead. Kimi K3 is a genuine milestone for the open-weight ecosystem, but that milestone is currently compromised by factual hallucinations. And ultimately, every single claim about this model remains pending until the weights are released on July 27.